My name's Eric Dilly, and I wrote this book called Be Addicted to Life. And why I believe that we all really desire to be addicted to this life is, well, fundamental. Like, who doesn't want to live life to its fullest and make amazing memories and, like, enjoy waking up in the morning? Why wouldn't you enjoy waking up in the morning? Who doesn't want that? Does everyone want to just pull the covers over their head and stay asleep? Or would you rather, when you open your eyes, be excited to have another day of life? Another chance to make new friends, another chance to make an even deeper memory. You know, what adventure are we going on today? This is what being addicted to life is all about. Now, there's a problem. The problem is not all of us are the same. Some of us are created differently. It isn't to say that being created differently is a bad thing. Some of us are created with an innate part of us that just obsesses over certain things and has a deeper desire for pleasure, and others, they don't have as strong as emotions. You know, they might not feel as deeply as other people. None of these are bad things, they're just things. But what if you're a person that feels a little bit more deeply and doesn't know how to, handle those emotions? That can be difficult. Or what if you obsess over things and you just want to get something right? All of these traits are, they're products of, addiction. They're products of being addicted to life. It's just, we haven't learned how to use our addictions, how to use our passions, how to recognize the red flags and say, I'm not going that direction, but I'm definitely going this direction. Once we learn how to funnel our obsessions and take control over our passions, then we can create a life that we are addicted to, that we are living it to its absolute fullest, where we're not afraid to step out into the unknown and take those chances, go on that adventure. So on our adventure, going out into life, there are a couple things we need to understand. Number one, is life is all about growth. Living things, they grow. If something is not growing, you have to ask the question, what's wrong with it? Is it sick? Is it dying? And the same is true in our life. But what does growth mean? Is it just growing up from our feet to our, are we just growing vertically? Are we growing horizontally? Or are we growing spiritually, mentally, physically? What is growth? I believe growth is about being able to accomplish more in life. When we are born, we are children, and as children, we are completely dependent on the world around us. As we grow into independence, we are being able to take care of ourselves and help take care of others. On one end of the spectrum, you can't survive without other people taking care of you. And on the other end of the spectrum, you are taking care of everything and everyone around us. We are completely responsible for our environment. We take control and ownership over all of that. Now, what's the difference from dependent towards total independence? I have a theory called seed theory, and it's helped me uncover and see things the way they are. You see, we're all seeds, every one of us, because we all know those people out there that just stopped growing. Nothing really changes in their life, and maybe they're a 40-year-old still in a boy's body, or a 40-year-old man in a boy's mentality. That can happen. How come some people don't want to grow? Well, I would say that these people are seeds. You see, seeds, we're all planted into darkness. There's a grand planter, a gardener, if you will, and he puts this seed into darkness. The seed can remain a seed for its entire life. It doesn't have to change, and it can stay in the darkness. Now, there is a point though. There's a point when that seed gets watered and when it experiences the heat from the sun. And it's these two elements, when properly added to the environment that the seed was planted in that will eventually make the seed crack. Now, the seed is a big metaphor for our ego. You see, there's two parts, the water and the sunlight. I believe the water is asking questions and sunlight is adding wisdom. When we begin to ask questions, pinpointed questions about our life that really, they kind of take our worldview. When we're in this state of, I know everything, which all teenagers go through, or this state that it's not my problem, I'm the victim, it's not my fault. Like, those ideas need to be shattered to the point where we take full responsibility of our life and where we question that we know. We have to know that we don't know. That's what Albert Einstein said is the beginning of wisdom. It was either him or Socrates, one of those guys. But the questions, and then education, wisdom. When we learn, especially wisdom from above, it is nourishing to our spirit. Now, eventually that seed cracks. And when that seed cracks, it's painful. Everything it thought it knew about being a seed is wrong. Because it's not really a seed. I thought I've been a seed this whole time, but I'm not. I'm not a seed anymore. Like, what is going on? Who am I? Where am I going? What am I doing? These are all questions a seed as cracked is going to ask. It doesn't know where it's going. All it's doing is it's striving. It's learning everything it can. It's trying to get every bit of water, asking all the questions possible, and it's chasing the wisdom the sun provides. And eventually that seed, it breaks the soil and it becomes a little sprout. Now, once it's a cracked seed, it becomes a sprout. Sprouts, they're just a little sprout. You notice a sprout because they can't handle a whole lot of stress, but they are asking the right questions. They are searching for truth. They're trying to get better in life. They might be really excited about life. And this is the first time in their life that they're saying, man, I don't know, but I'm learning. And they might be wanting to read more. They might be wanting to learn more, be watching lots of documentaries. But their mind is very fragile. It's so fragile it can be swayed any direction. I guess it wouldn't be fragile. It's just not strong. There's no real structure to it. You can step on a sprout and it doesn't kill it. It just lays there. And then, after a while, it'll grow again. So it's very flexible, would be the best way to put it. Once the sprout learns a little bit more about life and learns a little bit more how to operate in reality, make good decisions, it becomes, a bush or a shrub. This shrub is now, it's got a little strength to it. It's not completely able to take care of others yet, but it can take care of itself. When the wind blows and when people run by and an animal comes and knocks into it, it doesn't get trampled underfoot. It takes a really big animal to mow over this shrub. The problem with the shrub is it's still kind of learning because it's not really a shrub. It's not a shrub at all. I haven't really figured out who it is. Might be able to help a person out here and there, but it's still figuring out that it's not a shrub. Because what it really is a tree. Now, when a tree becomes a tree, it's still flexible, but it's strong. It's got solid roots in the darkness that it grew from. A tree without roots, deep roots in the darkness, isn't much of a strong tree at all. So that tree has not only lived in the light, but it's also lived in the darkness. And it isn't afraid of learning from its past experiences. It isn't afraid of reaching deep into that darkness where it just gets more and more pressure. And it's that pressure that allows it to take deep and strong root. As it grows into the light, all of a sudden, it's taking care of things. You got birds making a nest in there. You got other animals hanging out in the shade. It's got fruit. It's a bearing seed tree, and this fruit is coming down. And It's providing seed and making more trees. It is also feeding other animals or a person that walks by and needs an apple. A tree isn't trying to be a tree. A tree is just being a tree. It knows exactly who it is, and it operates in that day from the sunlight that God gives, and it asks the right questions, and also it knows when to ask what questions to the seed. Tree doesn't get angry at a seed or a shrub. It's actually really happy when it sees a seed because it sees this unlimited potential, and he knows that eventually that seed is going to grow up, and his biggest hope is that seed can one day become a tree. When it sees a shrub, it's the same thing. He's still figuring things out. And he'll know exactly by remembering when he was a shrub one day of what kind of questions to ask to help pull it into its treehood, to really live life to its fullest. And this is part of being addicted to life. It's finding out who we are. It's finding out, how strong and how deep we can put our roots, because if we don't have deep roots, then we're just going to get blown over by the next storm. And we need to be able to withstand the storms. That's seed theory. This is part of my philosophy on life, is that we are meant to grow, and there are stages to growth, and part of that is learning who we are and who we aren't. And that's probably easier for a lot of us. I remember when my mom and dad were in my van. Well, not my van, my dad's van, or my mom's van, but we were driving in the van. I was a senior in high school, and they're asking me all kinds of questions. They're asking me, Eric, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm 18, but you know what? I don't want to be like Dad working a job he doesn't like. I saw my dad wake up in the morning, sitting on the top of the stairs, just dreading to put his work boots on. I could see that in his heart, he wasn't just tired because it was early. He really didn't want to go to work. But it was so admirable because today, as an adult, I can see that my dad was sacrificing to provide for a family. I think in today's culture, as a matter of fact, that we don't give enough credit to the men who are sacrificing in their life to take care of their family. That they find a way to say, hey, this might not be the job that I love and I enjoy, but I love my family. And I'll be willing to do whatever it takes to care for them. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's because you know your role. And those people that are working that job that they might not like, because they know their role and they know who they are and they know their why, it becomes exactly what they want to do. And it's motivating. Being addicted to life is about living life to its fullest. It's about growing. Finding out who we are by knowing who we aren't. And ultimately, all of this is this new process that is, it's really the illness-wellness continuum. This illness-wellness continuum has been around for a while. When I read about it, it blew my mind. It says that there are 3 stages that we all need to go through in growth. The first stage is awareness. The second stage is education. And the third stage is growth. Now, when we practice awareness, education, and growth on a regular basis, our wellness, our health, just keeps moving up on that spectrum. Now, there's a point in the middle where we are not either sick and nor are we well. And think about a hospital. A hospital doesn't make you well. When you go into the hospital, you go in there because you're sick, because you're disabled. And eventually, you could even die in the hospital. Now, the hospital's responsibility isn't to make you healthy, it's to make you not sick. Once you are not sick, they kick you out of their doors, and now it's your responsibility to make sure that you're healthy. And the people that go to the hospital the most are the people that I guarantee you are not practicing awareness, education, and growth. When you get deep into the high-level wellness side of this spectrum, it is hard for you to get sick. Your immunity is boosted. And in this philosophy of being addicted to life, we are committed to awareness, education, and growth. What is awareness? Awareness I define as, well, there's really three parts of awareness. We have reading, writing, and moving. Reading is all about understanding exactly what comes into our mind. We understand that just as food is nutritious and some food is junk food, we are also consuming nutritional content and all the videos, songs, and books that we read, watch, and listen to. Anything that comes into our mind is being dissected, and just as when we take in food, it is broke down into its proteins. When we take in content into our eyes, ears, and our sense of touch, our sense of taste, our brain and our bodies are doing the same thing. It is taking that content and it's reinforcing the structure that is our body. I hope that makes sense. Food breaks down, and the quality of food we have has a direct correlation with the quality of our bones, the quality of our skin, and the quality of our cells. What we bring in through our eyes and ears has a direct correlation on the quality of our mental health and the quality of our spiritual health. It really does matter. So being aware of all of this doesn't mean you can't have a little bit of junk food now and then. You can't go to Taco Bell here and there or McDonald's. It just means that you understand that you cannot live off double cheeseburgers for the rest of your life. It's not good. It's going to have some side effects like a big belly or little cheeseburger heads. Awareness, education, and growth. Education, we can't be afraid to learn. Learning is our superpower. I firmly believe that when we look at learning as a superpower, it is one of the big separations between humans and animals. Animals can't pass down information through time by other than talking. It just doesn't happen. They don't know how to write and they don't know how to read. They can't read other people's philosophies and learn from other people's mistakes. The Bible has been around so long with all of these incredible stories from Samson to Jesus, from Adam to Joseph. I mean, come on, man. There are so many stories in the Bible for us to learn from, and that's one of the reasons why they're there, for us to learn. Case in point, one of my favorite stories is the story of Samson. Samson is this amazing king, he's a judge, that occurred during, years and years and years ago. Once upon a time is not how this story begins. How this story begins is God comes to Samson's mom and basically says, hey, you're going to have a kid and he's going to save the Israelites. The Israelites it's a word that means we who wrestle with God. But also in this context, it is you got God's children versus the people that don't worship the living God, the one true living God. So these would be the Philistines. So they have very different ways of living also. Whereas the Philistines don't have a whole lot of parameters to the way they live. God's people are supposed to have a set of parameters that they live by. And this is what kind of separates them. Now, because they have different parameters, they also have different lifestyles. And one of Samson's, his kryptonite, if you will, was women. And he just didn't really find the Israelite women as attractive as he thought the Philistine women were. There were some conditions that God had given his mom. So don't cut his hair, and I don't think he was allowed to drink. But there are some rules that Samson had to live by. Now, as a result from obeying these rules, he received gifts. His most notable gift was his strength. He was very strong. Now, his first display of strength was on his way to go visit his soon-to-be wife, one of his girlfriends. He's walking out in the woods. And as he's walking out into the woods, he notices that all of a sudden everything gets very quiet. And as it's very quiet, there's not a flutter from a bird's wing. You don't hear any leaves rustling until there was. Some leaves start rustling. His attention is snapped over in this direction. And the first thing he notices is this paw poking out from the woods. And then he hears the slow grumble of a growl and the long mane of a lion with the slits in his eyes. And you can see the yellow. Samson takes a step back and he can see that this lion is hungry. He is supposed to be the prey. And as the lion starts to lunge towards Samson, the power of God just comes over Samson, and he reaches up, grabs the lion by its mouth, and rips its head open. His jaw is just broke, and then the lion collapses. There's this massive dead lion at the feet of Samson. Samson goes home from his visit from his new girlfriend. And he takes this as a sign. He thinks that surely I'm supposed to marry this one. So he tells his mom and dad that there was a sign. Didn't tell him what the sign was. And I'm going to marry this Philistine woman. Can't you find a nice Israelite woman, Samson? No, this is the one. And so they set up this wedding ceremony. And these wedding ceremonies are seriously a week long. So now you have a bunch of Israelites in the same room as the bunch of Philistines. And this is like, think of Jekyll and Hyde. You know how those two sides war in the side of that one man? I mean, they don't agree with each other, okay? And now he's trying to marry this Philistine woman, and he's sitting down around this table. And when he sits around this table, he asks the people around this question. This is the first act that shows that not only is Samson very strong because of God's power, but God also gave him a very wise intellect. And he gives this riddle to the Philistines. He says, if you can answer my riddle, I will give you each 30 new outfits. And this is a good deal for them at the time. And they're like, sure. I mean, that's expensive. You're going to give all of us 30 outfits? What's the riddle? He says, all right, out of the eater, something to eat, and out of the strong, something sweet. And when he says this, he wants them to answer it and says, you have by the end of the wedding ceremony festival to answer my riddle, and I'll hook you guys up. So where did he get this riddle, though? Where did he get this riddle? Where he really got this was from the scene of where he fought the lion. When he fought the lion and was walking back past that scene with his mom and dad, he notices that there's this sound of bees. And he tells his mom and dad, hey, wait there. And he walks over and he remembers that this is the place that he fought the lion, and he sees all these bees around this lion. And then he reaches into the lion and he sees that there's honey. So he digs the honey out, he eats some, and then he brings it to his parents and he shares some with them. It's important. This is the most important part of the story. So, how does this have anything to do with the riddle? Well, of course the Philistines, they can't figure out what's going on with this riddle. So who do they start to badger? Samson's wife, or soon-to-be wife. They're saying things like, hey, are you going to let him make a fool of us? Hey, we're your real family. You're marrying him. Are you going to lower us? And they keep badgering her to the point that they threaten her. And then she then in turn comes to Samson and she says things like, if you loved me, we shouldn't have any secrets. Why won't you tell me? And finally, after days and days of this, Samson breaks down. And he tells her the answer to the riddle. And so, on the last day, when the people that he told the riddle to come to him, they said, we figured out your riddle. He goes, yeah, what was it? He says, out of what is stronger than a lion and what is sweeter than honey. And then Samson replies, well, if you wouldn't have plowed with my heifer, you would have never got that riddle. So he ends up leaving, And then finding a village of Philistines, he kills them all, and then he takes their clothes and then gives their clothes away, is how he repays this debt. And then this begins the cycle of this one-upping each other. So this is the first lesson out of the story of Samson. Number one, when you have pearls, something that you had to learn how to use, and you went through a lot to gain this knowledge, you don't share it with just anybody. You share it with the people that care about you. Do not share your treasure, your pearls, your wisdom, your honey. Do not share this with people that don't love you and care about you, because they will trample this wisdom under their feet and throw it in your face. Just don't do it. Number two, and the way that he shared the wisdom was not helpful. He elevated himself over those that he was sitting at the table with, trying to make them look small. And so they didn't like that. And then so this is the cycle that arrogance brings. And this is one of the lessons we learn from the story of Samson, is why the Bible talks so clearly why God hates arrogance, because it breeds this cycle of hatred. Second lesson we learn from the story of Samson is we all have adversity in our life, these lions that seem to attack us. And we know that it isn't our strength, wisdom, and might that got us through that adversity. There's no way we could have made it ourselves. And it's through the grace that our Father gives and the strength that our Father gives that He allows us to get through this adversity. The third lesson is when we have this adversity in our life, it's our responsibility to, at some point, revisit that scene. We have to dig into it. We have to dig in to those traumatic, those difficult experiences that we made it through, that God brought us out of. Because in that story, in that adversity, is wisdom. And that wisdom is wisdom that we can share with others, people that we love and care about. In those three lessons, we discover the importance of digging the deep roots as a tree. The deep roots they only go as deep as we dig. We have to dig into the adversity. And it isn't pleasurable, let me tell you. In the process of writing my book, that's exactly what I did. I took these memories that were so vivid in my past, and I dug into them. I said, God, why did you design my life for this? I believe that our life is designed specifically for our improvement. God, why did you teach me this? Why did you have me go through this? What lessons do you have for me to learn? And I cried. There are lots of tears on the paper that I wrote on. And sometimes I had to sit there for a moment before I learned my lesson. And some of the lessons were so profound, like what unconditional love looks like. And the people that taught me what unconditional love looks like, really, and the way that I think we ought to give, were they weren't Christians. And that story to me is exactly what Jesus meant when he says to welcome strangers, because you don't know when you'll be welcoming a visiting angel. So it's really important to look and investigate into the stories of our past. There's lessons that will be more valuable, more deep understandings than you ever thought. So, being addicted to life. Being addicted to life is about living life to its fullest. It's about going on adventures. It's about making amazing memories. Learning from our experiences, growing, and putting deep, deep roots so that we know exactly who we aren't, so that we can live as who we are. And in that process, we're just helping others around us. That's being addicted to life.